I never thought my world would shatter on a monsoon evening in Mumbai. I'm lying here on the wet pavement behind the cafe where I work as a barista, tasting blood while four women continue their assault. Each kick feels like it's breaking something inside me, not just my ribs, but my spirit. The pain is excruciating, but what hurts more is knowing this is all because of a lie. A vicious rumor that my ex-boyfriend's obsessed admirer spread across our entire neighborhood, destroying everything I'd built in just 2 weeks. Nobody believes my side. Nobody cares about the truth. And here I am, alone, being beaten as the rain pours down on Mumbai streets, washing away the blood streaming from my nose. That's when I hear his voice. Deep, commanding, lethal. You have 5 seconds to disappear before I make you wish you were never born. Through my tears and the rain, I see him. A man who looks like he stepped out of shadows themselves. Tall, maybe 6'3", wearing a perfectly tailored black shirt despite the downpour. His face is striking, with a sharp jawline and eyes so intense they seem to pierce through the darkness. There are faint scars near his temple. Subtle marks that whisper of violence survived. But before I tell you what happened next, I need to ask you something. What would you do if you had lost everything? If lies destroyed your reputation and nobody, absolutely nobody stood by you? What if the only person willing to protect you was someone dangerous? Someone from a world you'd been taught to fear? Someone who could either save you or consume you completely? If you've ever felt abandoned by everyone, you're not alone. This channel exists to remind you that even in the darkest moments, there's always hope. Always someone who might see your truth. Here we share stories of women who discovered strength in unexpected places, who found protection when they needed it most, who learned that losing everything can sometimes be the beginning of gaining something far greater. If you want to join this community of people who believe in second chances and transformation, subscribe and activate notifications so you don't miss any stories, because each one might give you the courage to face your own challenges. Now let me tell you what happened that rainy evening in Mumbai. I'm Priya Sharma and I was 24 years old when my life fell apart. I'd moved to Mumbai from a small town in Rajasthan with dreams that now feel like they belong to someone else. I came here to study psychology at university, hoping to build a career helping people. But life had different plans. My mother fell seriously ill during my final year, and the medical bills consumed our family's savings. I had to leave university and find work immediately. That's how I ended up at Chai and Dreams, a busy cafe in Bandra where tourists and locals mixed. It wasn't my dream, but it paid the bills. I could afford a tiny room I shared with another girl, had enough to send money home, and still hoped I might return to finish my degree someday. Then Arjun entered my life. Arjun Malhotra seemed perfect at first. Charming, successful, working in tech, always saying the right things. We dated for 7 months and I actually believed I had found someone I could trust, someone stable. But Arjun had a past he conveniently forgot to mention. An ex-girlfriend named Meera Kapoor, whose father owned half the real estate in Bandra. Meera couldn't accept being the one who was left behind. When she discovered Arjun was with me, she didn't confront him. She came after me instead. It started with whispers. Customers at the cafe looking at me with disgust. Co-workers suddenly treating me like I was contaminated. I didn't understand what was happening until one of the waiters, taking pity on me, explained. Meera had spread rumors throughout the neighborhood that I was a gold digger, that I deliberately seduced Arjun for money, that I was trying to trap him with a fake pregnancy, that I had stolen from previous employers. None of it was true. I wasn't pregnant. I'd never stolen anything. But lies spread faster than truth, especially when fueled by money and influence. Arjun, he broke up with me through WhatsApp, said he couldn't handle the drama, that Meera was making his life difficult, that we should both just move on. I was left alone with a destroyed reputation and no one to defend me. The cafe manager, Mr. Patel, who'd always been fair, started watching me suspiciously. Customers requested different servers. Some even left without paying, claiming I'd probably steal their money anyway. The pressure was crushing. But the worst was still coming. Meera had 3 friends, Anjali, Shriya and Kavya, who shared her cruelty. They started showing up at the cafe making comments loud enough for everyone to hear. Look at her, playing innocent now. Did she find her next victim yet? Poor thing, must be desperate now that her scheme failed. I tried to ignore it. Every word felt like acid on an open wound. I considered leaving Mumbai, going back home, but I didn't even have money for a train ticket. My mother needed the money I sent every month. It was that monsoon evening, after a particularly humiliating shift, when everything exploded. I was leaving through the back exit like I always did when I saw them waiting. Meera, Anjali, Shriya and Kavya standing in the narrow alley behind the cafe. The single streetlight flickered, casting eerie shadows. My heart dropped. I tried to turn back, but Meera blocked my path. You thought you could steal what was mine and just walk away? Her voice was pure venom. I tried to explain, tried to say I'd never stolen anything, that Arjun pursued me, not the other way round. But she didn't want truth. She wanted revenge. The first push came hard, slamming me against the wet wall. The second sent me crashing to the ground. And then the nightmare began. All 4 of them started kicking me. My stomach, my back, my face. Gold digger, worthless, trash. Each word came with another kick. I tasted blood. I tried to scream, but a kick to my mouth silenced me. The pain was so intense I started losing consciousness. That's when I heard him. You have 5 seconds to disappear before I make you wish you were never born. The voice cut through everything. The rain, the pain, my fading consciousness. It was a voice that demanded obedience. Through my blurred vision, I saw him emerge from the shadows. Tall, broad-shouldered, moving with the controlled grace of a predator. His black shirt clung to him in the rain, and his face, God, his face was carved from stone and danger. Meera, used to getting whatever she wanted, turned to him arrogantly. Who do you think you are? This is none of your business. My father? The man took 1 step forward, just one. And something in his eyes changed. Something that transformed that alley into the most dangerous place in Mumbai. 4 seconds. He said, his voice deadly calm. Anjali noticed first. She grabbed Shreya's arm and started backing away. Meera, still blinded by privilege, took a few more seconds to understand she was facing someone her family's money couldn't touch. When she finally turned to run, he spoke again, stopping her cold. I know exactly who you are, Meera Kapoor, and I know where your family keeps its secrets. If you or your friends come near this woman again, those secrets will end up in very public places. Now get out of my sight. They ran, all 4 of them, stumbling over each other in their panic. I lay there in the rain, unable to move, unable to process what just happened. He approached slowly, offering his hand. I hesitated. Should I trust him? But what choice did I have? I took his hand, and he lifted me with shocking ease, as if I weighed nothing. His dark eyes studied my face, cataloguing every injury with an intensity I couldn't understand. You need medical attention, he said. I don't have money for a doctor, I whispered. I wasn't asking your opinion. There was no cruelty in his voice, only absolute determination. You're getting treatment whether you like it or not. Then he said the words that would change everything. You are now my own, under my protection. Do you understand? I didn't understand. Not then. I was confused, in pain, scared. But something in his voice made me nod. He led me to a sleek black Audi parked nearby, the kind of car I'd only seen in movies. He helped me into the passenger seat with surprising gentleness, considering the violence he'd just threatened. Then he drove through Mumbai's rain-soaked streets with the confidence of someone who owned them. "What's your name?" he asked as we drove. "Priya," I managed. "Priya Sharma." He nodded once. "I'm Veer. Veer Raichand." The name sent ice through my veins, despite the pain. Raichand. Everyone in Mumbai knew that name, whispered in bars, in back rooms, in conversations that stopped when strangers approached. The Raichands controlled half of Mumbai's underground, businesses, properties, entire neighborhoods. And Veer Raichand was the head, the king, the man people like Meera Kapoor feared more than any police or law. Veer took me to a discreet clinic in Juhu, a place that looked like someone's home from outside. The doctor who treated me asked no questions. He examined me professionally, cleaned my wounds, checked for serious injuries. "Bruised ribs but nothing broken," he told Veer, as if I wasn't there. She was lucky. A few more minutes and this could have been much worse. Veer nodded and paid in cash. I couldn't see the amount, but it seemed to satisfy the doctor completely. When we left, I expected Veer to drop me somewhere and disappear. But he didn't. "You can't go back to your place tonight. They know where you live." I didn't argue. I was too exhausted, too overwhelmed. He drove to a high-rise building overlooking the Arabian Sea. We took a private elevator to the top floor, and he opened the door to the most beautiful apartment I'd ever seen. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed the city lights and the dark ocean beyond. The furniture was modern but warm, leather sofas, dark wood, subtle lighting, artwork on the walls. Everything screamed money and taste. "Guest room is through there," Veer said, pointing. "We'll figure out what to do next tomorrow. Rest now." The guest room was bigger than my entire shared room. There was a huge bed, a private bathroom with a bathtub, fluffy towels I was almost afraid to touch. I took a long hot shower, watching the blood and dirt swirl down the drain. When I came out, I found clean clothes on the bed. Track pants and a t-shirt, obviously Veer's, but comfortable. I thought I'd never sleep, but exhaustion won and I was unconscious within minutes. I woke to the smell of chai. When I stumbled out of the room, I found Veer in the kitchen preparing breakfast. It was surreal. This dangerous man making parathas and pouring tea. He gestured to a chair. "Sit, eat." I sat, still processing everything. Veer placed a plate before me and sat across the table. "I'll be direct, Priya. What happened yesterday was unacceptable. No one deserves that treatment. And now that you're under my protection, it won't happen again." I watched him, trying to understand. Why? Why are you doing this? You don't know me." Veer took a sip of chai before answering. His jaw tightened. "My sister was 17 when she fell in love with the wrong boy. His ex-girlfriend spread rumors that she was loose, that she'd been with multiple men. None of it was true. My sister was innocent, pure-hearted, but the rumors..." He paused, his eyes darkening. "She tried to take her own life. We found her in time, but barely." I felt my breath catch. I was 19 then, already involved in the family business, already building power, and I swore that day that I would never let another woman suffer like my sister did. That when I saw injustice, I would act, not turn away like society did to her. Is she okay now?" I asked softly. Veer smiled and it transformed his face. "Yes, she is married now to a good man who values her. She has 2 children. And those who hurt her, they learnt their lesson." He didn't elaborate. I didn't ask for details.
We ate in comfortable silence. Then Veer said, "You're staying here until we decide what comes next. I won't force anything. If you want to return to your life, I'll make sure Meera and her friends never bother you again. But if you want, I can help you rebuild everything. Your reputation, your future, give you a real chance to start over." Part of me wanted to refuse, to maintain my independence, to owe no one anything. But the realistic part knew I had nothing left. My job was torture, my reputation was destroyed, my room was in a hostile environment. "What do you want in return?" I asked carefully. Veer's eyes met mine, intense and honest. Nothing you're not willing to give. I don't play games, Priya. When I protect someone, it's real. When I make a promise, I keep it. All I ask is that you trust me enough to let me help. The sincerity in his voice was undeniable. I nodded slowly. Okay, I trust you. Over the following days, I began understanding who Veer Raichand really was and the kind of power he wielded. I stayed in the apartment, recovering. Veer handled his business during the day, but returned every evening with dinner. And we talked. About everything. About my childhood in Rajasthan, about his family, about books, movies, dreams, regrets. I discovered Veer was surprisingly well read. He loved poetry, Rumi, Tagore, Neruda. He had strong opinions about art and culture. Beneath the dangerous exterior was a man of depth and intelligence. But I also saw the other side. The nights he came home late, with blood on his knuckles he tried to hide. The tense phone calls behind closed doors. The men who visited, all carrying that same aura of controlled violence. Veer lived in two worlds, and I was seeing both. A week after that night in the alley, Veer came home with news. "I've handled your Meera problem," he said casually while preparing dinner. My heart stopped. "What did you do?" He turned, drying his hands. "Nothing illegal if that worries you. I had a conversation with his father, showed him some documents proving his company's been evading taxes in creative ways. He understood it would be in everyone's best interest if his daughter studied abroad for a while. Meera leaves for London next week. Anjali, Shreya and Kavya received similar messages. They won't bother you again." I should have felt relieved. I was relieved, but I was also disturbed. Veer had solved in days what had tormented me for weeks. With just his power and influence, he'd made them disappear. It was liberating and terrifying simultaneously. "Do you always solve problems this way?" I asked. Veer shrugged. "I use the tools I have. Power is just a tool. The question isn't whether you have it, but how you use it." That night, we stood on his balcony looking at Mumbai's glittering skyline. The Arabian Sea stretched dark and infinite beyond. "I don't know how to thank you," I said quietly. Veer was silent before responding. "Don't thank me yet. You haven't seen everything that comes with my protection." He turned to face me. "People will associate you with me now. That means respect. Nobody will dare disrespect you again. But it also means you'll be seen as part of my world. And my world isn't safe, Priya. I have enemies. People who wouldn't hesitate to use you against me if they saw the opportunity." I swallowed. "So, I'm in danger because I accepted your help?" Veer shook his head. "You were already in danger. Meera wouldn't have stopped. But now, you have protection. My people will ensure your safety. And as long as you're mine, nobody will touch you." The intensity in his voice made me shiver. This wasn't temporary help. This was something permanent. Something complicated. "You don't have to decide anything now. Stay here, recover, think about your future. If you decide you want your old life back, I'll respect that. But if you choose to stay, I'll make sure you're never vulnerable again." It was a promise and a warning. Over the next month, Veer and I developed a routine. I felt comfortable in the apartment. I began seeing it as home. Veer was attentive without being possessive. He gave me space but was always there when I needed to talk. And we talked endlessly about philosophy, about what makes life meaningful, about fear and courage and loyalty. But I also saw his other life. The late nights, the dangerous meetings, the weight of decisions that could end lives. One night, he came home particularly late and I was reading in the living room. When he entered, I immediately saw the blood on his shirt. "Veer, what happened?" I rushed to him. He tried to wave it off. "It's nothing, not my blood." But I insisted on checking. Under the bathroom light, I found a deep cut on his side, poorly bandaged. This needs proper treatment, I said, my hands shaking as I cleaned and rebandaged it. He said quietly, I've had worse. That doesn't make it okay. I looked up at him, tears in my eyes. I can't lose you. Not when I'm just starting to understand what you mean to me. The confession hung between us. Veer cupped my face gently. Priya, I need to tell you something. Since that night I saw you in that alley, broken but not defeated, I haven't been able to stop thinking about you. I know our situation is complicated. I know I'm dangerous, that my world is dark, but I can't deny this anymore. He paused, his thumb brushing my cheek. I care about you, more than I should, more than is probably wise. My heart raced. Getting involved with Veer Raichand meant fully entering his world. But I couldn't deny what I felt either. Veer, you saved me, not just from those women, but from myself. You showed me I'm worth more than I believed, and I trust you more than I've trusted anyone. He pulled me close, and when our lips met, everything finally made sense. The kiss was gentle at first, almost hesitant, as if he was giving me a chance to change my mind. But I didn't want to change my mind. I deepened the kiss, allowing myself to feel everything I'd been holding back. When we separated, Veer rested his forehead against mine. You are mine now. He repeated the words from that first night. Under my protection, always. Nobody will ever hurt you again. I swear it on my life. I believed him, because Veer Raichand was many things. Dangerous, powerful, feared. But he was also a man who kept his word.
In the following weeks, my life transformed completely. Veer used his connections to get me a position at a prestigious psychology clinic in Banga. The director, Dr. Mehra, was impressed with my credentials and gave me a chance to complete my education while working as an assistant. Veer never mentioned his involvement, but I knew. His fingerprints were all over the opportunity. My reputation gradually restored itself. People who'd believed Meera's lies began questioning their judgments when they saw me thriving, working, living respectably. And when word spread that I was under Veer Raichand's protection, the last traces of disrespect vanished. Nobody dared speak badly of someone protected by him. I also met Veer's family. His younger sister Anya, the one whose suffering had changed him. She welcomed me with genuine warmth, hugging me like we were already sisters. His mother, a dignified woman with kind eyes, saw in me something that made her smile. You're good for him, she told me once. You make him remember he's human, not just the king of his empire. The Raichand family wasn't what I expected. Yes, they were dangerous. Yes, they were involved in kings I preferred not knowing about. But they were also loyal, loving, and fiercely protective of their own. But not everything was perfect. There were moments when I saw the toll Veer's life took on him. The impossible decisions, the enemies who never slept, the constant vigilance. 3 months after that night in the alley, everything came to a head. Veer came home silent and tense. We were in bed, me resting against his chest, listening to his heartbeat, when he finally spoke. Do you know what terrifies me most? His voice was barely a whisper in the darkness. What? I asked softly. That I have brought you completely into my life, and now you're my greatest vulnerability. My enemies would know exactly where to hurt me if they wanted to destroy me. And I don't know if I can live with that fear. I lifted my head to look at him, my hand on his cheek. Then don't live with fear. Live with me. I chose this, Veer. I knew the risks, and I chose you anyway, because for the first time in my life, I feel truly protected, truly valued. You gave me my life back when I had nothing, and I won't let fear steal this from us. Veer pulled me closer, and I felt the tension leave his body. Sometimes I wonder what I did to deserve you, he murmured. You deserve me because of exactly who you are. A man who doesn't turn away from injustice. A man who protects the vulnerable. A man who keeps his promises. 6 months after that rainy evening, I stood on the balcony of the apartment that was now officially ours, watching Mumbai wake up to a new day. Veer came up behind me, wrapping his arms around my waist. "Happy?" he asked, his voice warm against my ear. I leaned back against him, feeling complete in a way I never imagined possible. Yes, incredibly happy. Veer turned me to face him and pulled out a small velvet box. Inside was a ring, not a typical engagement ring, but something unique. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by tiny diamonds set in platinum. It's the color of the midnight sky, dark, like my world, but with stars, like the light you brought into it. Priya, I am not the kind of man who makes promises lightly, but I promise you, as long as I'm breathing, you will be protected, loved, valued. You changed my life as much as I changed yours. Will you accept me, all of me, the good and the dark? Tears filled my eyes. Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes, because you're not just my protector, Veer. You're my home. We kissed as the sun rose over Mumbai, two survivors who found each other in their darkest moment. Sometimes life takes everything from us, our reputation, our dignity, our hope. But it's precisely when we're at our lowest that we discover who will truly reach out their hand. I entered that alley alone, vulnerable, with nobody to protect me, and I emerged under the protection of the most powerful man in Mumbai. This isn't a fairy tale, it's better. It's real. It's about a woman discovering she deserved protection, respect, love. About a man using his power not to dominate, but to defend. And about proof that even in the darkest places, light can emerge. So I ask you, would you have trusted Veer when he offered protection that first night? Would you have accepted entering his world with all its dangers and complexities? Or would you have chosen to face everything alone? There's no right or wrong answer. Each person must make their own choices. But always remember this. You deserve to be protected. You deserve respect. And when you find someone willing to stand by you in your most difficult moments, don't let fear stop you from accepting.